Hey, what's going on everybody? Brad the Guitologist here. In this video we're going to take a look at this Glarry violin that they sent me. My youngest daughter is taking up violin in school and asked Glarry if they wanted to send me something. That way I could kill two birds with one stone, get a decent little violin for my daughter to play, and also maybe get something for us to review and check out. So this is a half-size violin. She's currently, I have to think about it because they grow up so fast, 9 years old. So a little neat little Glarry brochure there with all their guitars and everything else too. Oh yeah, we did this little 36-inch bass in another video. If you want to see how that went, I will put a link up here. You can go check that video out. All right, we got some strings. We have two sets of strings, so there's a set on here and then they provide you with a second set. These strings are probably, frankly, gonna not be great. Usually strings for violins on these cheap sets are the worst, probably one of the worst things about them. We got some rosin in the pocket up here. We have real wood here. Do we have some kind of, oh, we got two broken hairs already to trim those up. Yes, it's a very cheap bow, but it is a bow. It'll probably do the job for no more than she's gonna need. Yeah, the unfortunate thing is the broken hairs on the bow, but that's not, should be fine. All right, enough for the bow. Okay, so here's the violin. Yes, it is definitely student grade. I mean, this thing is, I forget the exact price, but it is cheap. Seems like it might end up being pretty resonant for what it is. Yeah, this is, you know, this is what I expect for at the price point, honestly, a sub $100 violin. But yeah, I'll put a link down in the description if you want to check one of these out. Yeah, so far so good. Let's get this thing strung up. The bridge is probably gonna need some care. Bridges take time to really set up properly. And if they aren't set up already, you've got some work ahead of you. Now, most student violins at this price point, their bridge is not going to be set up and can always use some tweaking. We can see how rough it is. It's really clunky and kind of roughly cut in places. It's not really all that straight. They've got writing down here. I don't know, maybe they did something to it before it left the factory in terms of manual, you know, adjusting. The feet of your bridge are supposed to sit pretty much in between these two marks on an F-hole type violin. You know what? It's not that bad. I've seen far worse. Really what we're looking at is the way that the bridge meets the body right down here. It needs to really follow that curve and kind of conform to it. And it's not that bad. I mean, I've seen much worse than that, where it was just straight up off the thing, you know, not radiused at all. But that one is fairly radiused in. I'm actually really surprised by that. Yeah, I think just a little bit of sanding on this bridge at some point, and we'll be able to improve the action and everything. But we're going to do an out-of-the-box test on this thing now. I'm going to go ahead and string this up, tune it up, and then I'll be right back with you. Got the string tension on, and we're way above this board right here. This thing is, the action is real high on this. So I'm going to shave down the feet of the bridge a little bit and shape the top end a little bit, and probably go ahead and do some more fine work on the bridge to remove some material. Bridges are one of those things that are a bit of a signature for violin makers, high quality violins. The bridges are really finely carved. Now the bridge on this beginner instrument is not nearly as finely carved as something you're gonna find on, like, say, a antique, you know, Italian or German, you know, violin or French violin or something like that. You're not gonna find that kind of quality in an instrument like this. They just don't have the time to produce something like that of that high a quality, or get the materials to do it and stay at this price point that we're talking about on this instrument, which is just, I mean, extremely low. Let's be honest. It's a very low price point, and that's a great thing. And if you don't believe it's a great thing, I will challenge you this. I mean, how is a working family supposed to afford instruments for their youngsters if they're already struggling to eat? You know, I mean, in today's economy, things are so expensive. And if you didn't have instruments of the sort of quality that this violin represents, you know, there would be a whole lot of aspiring violinists who wouldn't even have an opportunity to pick one up and try it. And while, yes, I can already hear you saying there are a lot of, you know, vintage instruments still on the market or still out there, and antique stores and in cases, you know, in attics, and that's true. But most of those are going to require an expert level of workmanship to bring back up to a standard that's playable, and that's been the case for you know, 80%, 90% of the instruments that I've seen over the years as far as violins that were antiques. So when you're talking about antique violins that, yes, would be of a higher quality than something like this, you know, as far as the woods and the workmanship and everything, nobody's disputing that, you know, that's least of all me. What we are saying is this has a place. It is able to be played. It is able to be set up. I'm going to show you how to set it up, you know, at least to some degree here. But, you know, I haven't done extensive violin work, so this is not something I'm claiming to be an expert at. However, this is something that I should be able to get this set up and going to a reasonable degree for my daughter to learn on at school. So first thing we're going to do, we're going to remove the bridge. So the strings are fairly loose at the moment, but I'm going to go ahead and take them off. Okay, so these strings, they'll just slip right out of the tailpiece. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to slip the strings out of the tailpiece here because we want to take this bridge back off. And you see it's just kind of held on with tension. You never want to glue a bridge like this on or anything like that. And you can also see on the bridge, there's going to be one of these sides that's a little bit lower than the other side. The higher side is going to be your bass strings. First thing we have to do is shape the feet, because these feet are supposed to conform to the top of the violin. The violin top has a curve to it, and these feet also have a curve, as you can see. But the feet need to conform to this exact violin. These two little indentations right here on this F hole, there's two indentations here, and there's two indentations over here. You can use those as a reference for where the bridge is supposed to go. So essentially, the bridge feet should set somewhere in between those 2 points. Okay, editing Brad here real quick, guys. So I made a mistake here. Really where you want the bridge, when you're looking at it edge on, you want the bridge to be right through the middle of the rearmost mark that's on that F hole. That's the one that's closest to the tailpiece. So you want the middle of your bridge feet to sit right on that rear mark, not in between the 2 marks. That's I misremembered that, and I was wrong about that, and later on I looked it up to be sure, and sure enough I was wrong. So that needs to be moved back just a little bit toward the tailpiece. My bad. Okay, you see there how the feet conform to the top of the violin. This actually is not bad. I've seen much worse on beginner violins, but they aren't perfect, and we can get that a little better. I got a piece of sandpaper, and this just happens to be sticky back sandpaper. So we're going to take a scrap piece of paper, and we're going to stick the sandpaper on top of that. And we're just going to cut out a portion of this sandpaper. We don't need the whole thing. We just need a small section of the stuff. Make sure you get your wife's good scissors. Go in her sewing box and get her good Ginger scissors to do this. I'm using my Scotch right now, which I couldn't find my wife's Ginger scissors, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to kind of stick it right in the area where I know that this bridge is going to go. I'm going to take the bridge now and basically just sand the feet like so. Now the entire pad of the bridge is flush down onto the top. The entire pad on both sides are now flush. And also you want to make sure that the bridge is resting straight up and down, and that there's no wobbly parts. You want it to be real flat on the bottom. And that looks pretty good to me. That is about right. Now what we're going to do, we're going to take off quite a bit of this meat up here on the top of this bridge, because the neck angle on this is really shallow. Really, it's kind of too shallow for a violin. They're usually kicked back just a little bit more than this one. So we're going to have to take off a bunch of the meat on top of this and make this thing as dainty and as thin as possible. And basically with bridges, the thinner you can make them, the more you can kind of round off the edges and things like that. The more it's going to transmit the energy of the player and the strings into the top, and the louder the violin will be and the better it'll sound, the sweeter it'll sound. Okay, next what I would usually do is get like a half pencil, and you can make yourself a half pencil if you don't have one. Okay, so you can see what I've done here. I've flattened out one side of the pencil. I've kind of graduated it where I've taken more off of this end, but it's still straight. It's still a straight edge. So what we're going to do now, we're going to get our bridge and we're going to get our newly flattened pencil here, and we're going to make some marks. So we'll lay our pencil down on the neck and point it toward the bridge area. We'll put the bridge where we're going to end up having it on the violin, and we want to make some marks across for reference points where we need to not go beyond. Basically, it's going to mark the fingerboard level across that bridge, so you see the marks there. You know, you're not going to sand all the way down to that mark, so don't be fooled by that. What we're going to do is we're going to clamp this up. So we'll put this in our little vise here, and this will give us some stability to start working on this thing. And I'm going to mark on here where these strings are meant to cross, and usually you'll know where the two center strings are meant to cross because they'll be kind of in the center of your little bulbs here. Usually most violins will have a little decoration here, and that'll give you some reference for where your two center strings will probably be. That's just giving us a rough estimation of where they're going to end up. Okay, that has gotten probably about as low as I want to dare to go. While I've got the Dremel out, so you can see how much that took off of that. That's quite a lot. But now I'm going to use the Dremel tool to get into some of these little leggy areas down in here and take out some material. It's not complete, obviously, but it looks much, much better than it did. You can see how all the edges are starting to get very rounded there. I'd say looking pretty good. Okay, that's got me down about as far as I want to go with the Dremel. Now I'm going to come in with some files. But here's what it looks like after the Dremel tooling. You know, it occurs to me as I'm doing this is kind of a metaphor for life in a way, because the struggle for good acoustic tone on any acoustic instrument is the struggle between making something that is dainty enough to sound sweet, but is robust enough to not fall apart. You want to be nice and you want to be kind to people where you can. Of course, observe the golden rule and all that good stuff, but at the same time, you don't want people to just run all over you. So at some point, you gotta have a backbone. Does it make sense? But if you were wondering why the holes in a violin bridge, that's why, because they're trying to remove weight. There we go. It's a little bit more refined now. The edges have been really ground down and thinned out quite a lot. Hopefully not to the point where anything will fail. I did get really close to this area up here, and I think that's going to give us enough string height, hopefully. All right, one of the things that I've found here is that the strings appear to be a bit close together for my liking. You see how far away from the edge of the board that string now is and how bunched up the strings are. I just think that it would be nice to utilize a little bit more room because there's more room for this to come over some. So I'm going to obliterate these current slots and we're going to recut that. All right, so obviously we've uncovered one thing here. You can see that the wood that's used on this fretboard and nut are not ebony, of course, like they would be actual ebony at this price point. But there's some kind of lighter wood, so this has been, you know, painted before. So it's a bit of a bummer, but it is not unexpected. Okay, I found an issue with the build on this. The center line for the neck does not line up with the center line of the body. Follow the straightness of this. Follow that straight out, like in between those two center screws, and follow that, and you'll see how off the neck is. See how cocked it is to the side? So the neck was installed at the factory slightly off. I could pop the end pin out and cheat over just a slight bit so that it lined up, and I think I might actually do that. So we'll pop this tail piece off of here and drill another hole. Alright, I got some dowels. Hopefully one of these will fit. This one is going to be slightly too big. So I'm going to drill this out to this size and then plug it and then re-drill it. This is pretty much par for the course for you know, violins at this price point. It's just comes with the territory. Because all of this work that I'm doing right now, you know, somebody would have had to have done, and they would charge you for that work, obviously, all the time. And you could, of course, you could buy one of these and take it to a competent place to have it set up and everything, and they might just tell you that they don't do setups on instruments like this. A lot of places will refuse them so that it protects their business and, you know, the instruments they want to sell, which frankly are better instruments, but, you know, if you're trying to save money, that doesn't help you. Nearly there. I'm taking it one step at a time here. Getting close. There we go. Alright, we got our little dowel we're going to plug it with, and it won't take much of this, just I'm not going to go entirely where the neck is, but I'm going to kind of split the difference here, and hopefully that's going to be good enough. I'm not offsetting it very much, but it's enough, I think, where it's going to make a big difference. We're going to try to sneak up to this original, to the original size of this hole. Except when you get a big chip out like that, like I just did, I will glue that after the fact. See, I kind of got a chip out there on the side. Oh well. We'll just put a little bit of glue underneath and go about our business. Yeah, that chip out wouldn't have happened if I had snuck up on the size a little better. I kind of made a jump, and I knew better than that, but I did it anyway. Another thing about these inexpensive violins, you can see how easily the finish is chipped a couple times here already. Got a couple of chips down here where I've been kind of working around things, and that's going to be real easy to do. The finishes aren't aren't great. Let's just put it that way. All right, normally this is where I would reach for a clamp, but I am not going to bother. I'm going to instead, that's what we'll do. We'll just let the end pin hold it. There you go. The problem I got now, there's a little hump back here on the rear of a violin. This all needs to be moved over that way a little bit, but that hump is kind of in the way. So I think what I'm going to have to do is take a little bit of material off of this shoulder rest right in here. And if you've never removed a shoulder rest before, this is how you do it. You put something, a little screwdriver or something in one of these holes, and you can kind of twist. That will unscrew this clamp. Is that gonna get it? Yes. So yeah, see what I mean? This hump right here is in the way of us doing what we need to do there. So let's go to town on that. Yeah, I think that's probably gonna work. You see how off-center that is? See how it's shifted way over to this side? But the pin is now kind of centered with that, so that will give us room for that tailpiece to fit in there properly, I think. Okay, so we've got the outside strings are completely where they need to be. We have to space this nut. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. Oh, this is looking way better. Look at the action now. This thing is down here at the nut as well. It's not really, it's not high action down here on the nut, so it's not going to be anything like it was. It was terrible as it was before. We're going to do some refining too on some of these edges, and I might hit this neck with a little bit of sandpaper on the sides here, just to and the back, just to make it a bit nicer to feel. But other than that, we're pretty much there. And one more. Okay. There we go. Got our bridge on there looking nice. We've got it all refined. We've got our action very much refined. It's much, much better than it was. We had to move our end pin over. You can see our bridge, how it came out. You saw the before, and that's way better than it was before. I can tell you that. Our end pin area looks kind of jacked up, if I'm honest, but it's better than it was as far as being off-centered. Far better than it was. And look at there, I already put that little ding in there too. I don't know how I did it. Put that little ding in there. Like I said, these things are so easy to ding up, and the thing is, the dings show up pretty brightly when they're new because the wood is bright and new, and you know, it's just, dings are going to show up on an instrument like this. The action down at the nut is way nicer than it was because I deepened those slots just ever so slightly to make them sit down a little better. So now she should be able to press down on these strings much easier. And up here, even high on the fingerboard, it's not anything like it was. So yeah, let's tune this thing up. And, you know, I can't play violin very well, but I'll try to give it a little bit of a test. We'll see what it sounds like. Let's rosin up the bow and see what it sounds like. I am not an accomplished violinist, so you'll have to please forgive me. What you want to do with your rosin, you want to scratch it up pretty good, so you want to get like a sharp object of some kind, maybe a screwdriver or something, and just kind of give it some scratches on there. Let's give it some crisscross hatching. But it takes a while to kind of rosin up the bow the first time, so after you've played the violin for a while, it gets a little easier. Yeah, I may end up having to refine the bridge a little bit more and drop the high string and the low string down just a little bit so you can get a little bit more relief on the bow, so you can get single notes a bit easier. Alright, so the bridge was too flat before, and I have refined it even further. You can see I have carved out on top of the bridge there, down on the high and the low strings. And what that's going to do is it gives more clearance for the bow when you're bowing. So I think that's actually kind of cool. I like the way that dips up and over like that. Looks pretty neat, actually. Pretty happy with the way the bridge came out. Yeah, that'll do it for this video on this Glarry half-size violin. It's okay. It actually sounds okay. It plays okay. I mean, the main thing is, you know, it doesn't have the nicer woods or the nicer finish or really the nicer anything. But does it have to have that when you've got a 9-year-old who's just now starting violin? No. So I'm going to continue to make this a little bit better for her as the weeks wear on. But other than that, man, yeah, it's ready to go. So hit subscribe down below. And for now, we will see y'all later.